Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Cal Royal FBGEX12. This is a solid brass single route extension flush bolt with round ends, polished brass finish, US3. And here's the body of the flush bolt. They say that this is single route, and we'll talk about why it's a single route unit. Okay, so it features this solid brass scalp plate that's here. This is going to be 3/4 wide. It's going to have an overall length of, looks like it's 7 3/8. So that would be 6 5/8 center to center. Yeah, 7 3/8. That thickness is probably about 40 thousandths. Let's take a look. Not that it matters, it doesn't. I just would like to know for curiosity's sake. It doesn't matter to you, meaning to your preparation. It's .031 is what that is, .031. Okay. So this is an EX extension flush bolt. They say it's a 12. I'm not sure what 12 refers to, other than it just being a component of the part number, because they don't really indicate. But there doesn't necessarily need to be a correlation, I suppose, between a part number and a size always. So we've talked about the size of the body. The bolt now, that's going to have an overall length of about 18 5/16. I think what's happening there is, I don't know, is what's happening there. So what I'm stammering all about is, as I've threaded this in, you're going to want to tighten the bolt at the tip. That can come off. You're going to want to tighten that. If I were you, I'd probably put some thread lock in both of these areas. You don't want them over time to unthread, which they will do. So flush bolts are measured the top of the door or the bottom of the door to the center of the faceplate. And this unit here is going to measure, 21 and some inch, 17 3/4. It is 17 3/4 to the tip of the bolt to the top of the scalp plate, plus 7.375 times 0.5, 21 7/16 from the tip to the center of that faceplate. So you'll be using this at the top of the door. You could install it at the bottom if you wanted. There are times when people do actually want a little bit longer flush bolt so that you don't have to reach down so far to manipulate that bottom bolt. Not typical. You're not going to see that normally, but it has been done, can be done. You'll use this on doors that are taller, 8-foot, 9-foot doors. You'll certainly see that. A 12-inch dimension is common for doors up to 7 foot. 18 or 24 inch would be typical for 8 foot. Going past that to a 9-foot door, unusual, unlikely, in fact, that you'll even have that, but it's possible you will. If it was me, I wouldn't be using just a 21 7/16 length for a door taller than 8 foot, but this would certainly work well for an 8-foot door, in my opinion. So they say it's a single route, but it's not. The body is a single route, and we're going to talk about that. There's 2 steps necessary to get this installed. Number 1 is you're going to need to route that body. So it's 3/4 and it's 7 3/8 overall, so 6 5/8 center of the 3/4 to the center of the 3/4. So you have your router, you have your template on the door, and it's set to the proper dimension. Your router goes in, and you go from 0 up to 6 5/8. Well, in your center line, where the collet of your router base is hitting the edge of your template, your bit's going to come down and through, so you'll measure that dimension, set your template, make your prep, set the depth deeper on your router, continue on until you get to the body thickness, which is probably about 3/4. It's not. It's about 5/8. Okay. And then you're done. That's the single route, meaning there's just one step. If you were to be able to route and then go 5/8 in one run, then it's a single route. And automated machinery will absolutely do that. You're doing it by hand, you won't do it that way. The problem with an extension flush bolt is you have to be able to drill from the top or bottom of the door all the way down and through. And doors are not going to be field drilled for this sort of extension flush bolt. Why? Because from the edge to the center of the bolt, that's about 5/16. So if you're going to drill a 3/8 hole to get that bolt down there, and your center line has to be at 5/16, half of 3/8 is 3/16, right? 5/16, so you're literally 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the door to where your bore is going to be. There's really no chance that you're going to drill that perfectly straight enough over the length, which would be about 18 inch almost, to be able to get from the top of the door to where that's going to be, about 17 inch, without breaching through or without the bit digging deeper into the material. When you have an extension flush bolt in commercial doors, you can do that because the back set, the edge of the door to the center of the whatever, is greater than 5/16, most certainly greater. So your door manufacturers, your pre-hangers, people making the doors, they're going to prep the door to receive this. That style is already routed on the inside for sure. And then you might prep the edge of the door with an automated sort of process, but you won't be drilling that extension. And you shouldn't attempt it. This could also be getting attached to a flush bolt, to an astragal, some sort of grater apparatus that will then go to the edge of the door. That's pretty common as well. You'll see that certainly. This is going to include 4 screws, 2 shorts and 2 longs. The short ones are for the strike. That strike is about, I don't know, maybe 40 thousandths thick. I guessed that earlier and I was off. Let's guess it this time. And he's off again by the same margin. This is 50 thousandths thick. Okay, so the thickness of a kick plate, you may or may not elect to try to mortise that into your door, into your head, the header of the frame. The 2 short screws are again for the strike. The 2 longer screws are for the body. They'll go through the body. They've got to get through that 5/8 thickness and then down into the door, and that's why that screw is probably about 1.5 inches or so. Okay, you want to certainly pre-drill that. You won't want to strip that screw while you're sinking it in. And why people buy these, if you're this client, this is just a residential application. This is a client who obviously has a door and has replaced the bottom flush bolt, which is their 6-inch version, the FBG6, not 6-inch, but the FBG6. That's certainly going to be at the bottom of the door. This would be at the top of the door. Okay. Let's switch to the screen view where we can take a look at a couple of the supporting documents that we would have for this Cal Royal flush bolt. Okay, so this is the item that we are looking at, FBGEX12. Some extended description information down here about the size. The cut sheet is what I wanted to show you. Not a whole lot to see here that we haven't already covered. My dimension is really telling me 7 3/8, not 7.5. Checking that again, no doubt. It's, I'm definitely going to stick with 3/8. I'd say 7 and 17/30 seconds if I was going to get nerdy about the dimension. It is not 7.5. Not unusual for imported Asian manufactured builders hardware to deviate from the published documentation. That's pretty typical. If it's coming from overseas, I never see a dimensional drawing and the actual product completely align. So be mindful if you're mortising something off this sheet. You know, a lot of people don't want to do any preparation on doors and frames until they have the actual hardware. And I don't cite them for that because you do have a typical culture of the document and the product not being exactly the same. And if I'm the person mortising the door for this, yeah, I want it to be right. It's my mistake if it's not, right? It's not going to be the mistake of Cal Royal that their hardware is for sure shy of this by at least 3/32 of an inch. By 3/32 of an inch, that's a problem. Anyway, moving forward on all of that, let's check the other finishes that this item is available in. Probably about 8 would be my guess. Let's take a look. Okay, 10B for oil rub bronze, US 15 satin nickel, 15A for antique nickel, 26 for polished chrome, 26D satin chrome, 3 for polished brass, which is the item in this video, 4 for satin brass, US 5 for antique brass. Replacement strike plates are down here as well, should you need to replace that. When you buy the flush bolt, naturally, you're going to get the strike plate as well. A link below this video to the manufacturer's page is here, and that's handy because it will allow you to review not only all of the Cal Royal products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Let's wrap up this video on camera. So in conclusion, a couple of final things. We didn't take the projection of the bolt. That's a very common question that we get. Realistically, from where your prep is going to end, and you might get fancy and not necessarily prep that in a single route. You might just stop and then plunge route down here so that you can maximize the amount of wood that your bolt is engaging into. But your effective projection is going to be about 1/2 of an inch from the tip of the body, or pardon me, the end of the scalp plate. The diameter of that rod, the extension rod, is 0.232. 0.232 right in here. Okay. The name Cal Royal is synonymous with a tremendous quantity of different commercial and residential builders' hardware. Their catalog in 1995 was about that thick. Now it's a huge binder. They continue to amend, augment, add on to, evolve their product line. If you're a commercial client, I would definitely check in on their exit devices, their door closers, their lock sets, and their hinges. If you're a commercial client, right here, flush bolts. Okay. Other ancillary products, they have a variety of grade 3 tubular passage, privacy, dummy, entry locks. And while it's imported builder's hardware, they do have a very comprehensive offering of those products, meaning lots of different lever choices, finish designs, things of that nature. If you have any questions on the Cal Royal, this is their part number FBGEX12 in a US3 finish, or any other Cal Royal product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.